Welcome to our Top 5 series for Ryerson's alumni and friends. My name is Christian Mehta and I am the AVP of Engagement at the university. Before we begin, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land where Ryerson is located today. At the university, we've made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth and reconciliation, and I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person next time we can get together on campus. I also want to acknowledge the tremendous pain and horror that we have witnessed over the last few days in the wake of the deaths of George Floyd and Regis Porchinsky-Paquette. We are creating an opportunity for our alumni and friends to come together to grieve, learn, and build solidarity on anti-Black racism. So please watch this space for details over the next few days. Okay, so we know you've got a lot on the go, and this is just a 30-minute webinar. We have a lot to say here, and Julie is an amazing presenter. So we're gonna dive in quickly, but I have a few housekeeping tips to share first. In about 20 minutes, Julie will be taking your questions. If you wanna ask something, please add your question to a Zoom's Q&A area. Your cameras and mics are off, so I'll be selecting questions from that area. Second, if you're on social media, please use hashtag #RUTop5. And finally, we are recording this session, so if you want to watch it again or share it with your networks and friends, please look for a message from us in your inbox over the next day or two. I think we might also be sharing a few recipes from Julie's presentation today too. So on to today's presenter. Julie Albert is half of the perfectly balanced, note Julie's the saucy one, sisters behind the popular website Bite Me More, best-selling cookbooks Bite Me, Bite Me Too, Lick Your Plate, and soon to be released Bite Me Balanced Cookbook, which comes out October 6th. Julie is also co-founder of Bite Me Creative, a digital agency that specializes in content creation, social media management, branding, and influencer marketing. Julie is a proud graduate of the Ryerson School of Journalism, yes, and lives, yeah, there you are, and lives in Toronto with her husband, 3 kids, and a dog. Julie, over to you for the next 20.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you so much for having me today. It is super great to be here. I have been extremely fortunate to have attended Ryerson Journalism, and it really set me on my path. My sister and I are, as you mentioned, I am half of the sister act at Bite Me More. My sister is the sweet one, I am the saucy one. We have a perfect partnership though. We really, our skill sets play to one another. She has a bionic palate and can answer the question consistently and deliciously, what's for dinner? I, on the other hand, my job is the writing for what we do, the look of what we do, the creative, and also to try to make peeling another potato not grueling. It can be really hard to reinvent the chicken breast. We've been at this for 10 years. Our first book, we self-published. So just to give you a brief overview from 10,000 feet, we really, we've been on both sides of the learning curve and, or both sides of the process. The learning curve was steep. The first book, we were authors and publishers. We took the book across Canada with rice and pots and pans in our suitcases. Our second book, we went with a Canadian, now defunct publisher, so we had that experience. Our third book, the Bite Me Balance, Lick Your Plate. Bite Me Balance is next. Lick Your Plate was with Penguin Random House, and now this fourth book will be with Penguin Random House as well. So we've been super lucky in this experience to really see all sides of the process. And I guess what I'm trying to say is our journey boils down to that single question, which is, that haunts us all, which is, what's for dinner? This question's not going away. Lisa and I have 6 kids between us. Our kids are young adults now, but when it was time to feed my kids, noodles and butter were going to only work for so long. So because I had spent my time really worrying about fonts and sentence structure, I turned to my sister to learn how to cook because she was following our mother around the kitchen when I was upstairs playing on my Commodore 64. If you're old enough, you remember what those are. So today I'm going to take you through our top 10 tips that will make your life easier in the kitchen. And see, this is not Ryerson 5, this is 10. I'm doubling down, I'm giving you double. Make your life easier in the kitchen, help save you time and your waistline. And third of all, to save you money on takeout. I can show you how easy it is to pull recipes together. If I can do it, I'm the original blunder woman in the kitchen, trust me, you can do it too. So without further ado, I am going to start with number 10. 10 through 6 are recipes that I'm going to just briefly speak to. Right now during Corona, it's challenging cooking every day, but we have, and I'm sure most of you have overstocked your pantries. So these 5 recipes really speak to that. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys. There we go. And I have called this Pantry Raid. Sorry, Christian, I know it's probably not, well, this is a PC show, but anyway, the first recipe I'm going to speak to is, sorry, my tech support. Thank you. That was my daughter. The pantry item here is diced canned tomatoes. This soup is the ultimate in comfort food. It is a tomato soup made from, what you do is you roast the diced tomatoes and then you puree it into a velvety smooth soup and you top it with grilled cheese croutons. Kids can get involved in this. You can have them pureeing with an immersion blender, which is one of our favorite tools, which I'll tell you about later. You can also have them help prep the grilled cheese. The takeaway tip on this one is onions. When buying onions, make sure they should have no smell whatsoever. If they do, it means there's some sort of bruising under the skin, and just leave that one behind. As well, if you cut onions like my sister in ball, I don't because I wear contact lenses, but if you do, put your onion in the refrigerator for 30 minutes and the cooling will lessen the vapors. So that's the first one. Number 2, we all have a lot of peanut butter in our pantries right now. I'm pretty sure. I chose this recipe not just because the peanut butter, the sauce is absolutely drinkable. It's delicious. It's also a recipe that can be very easily customized. So if you have kids in the house who don't like one thing but want another, you can set this out as a kind of pull your own bowl together situation. And if it's not shrimp and tofu that you want to have as your proteins, throw in some chicken or meat. As well, you can sub in vegetables like broccoli, edamame, and it's a delicious meal in a bowl. My tip here would be always buy frozen shrimp. Shrimp after it's caught is almost immediately frozen. When it's thawed at the market, you are not 100% sure. You can't be 100% sure of how long it's been sitting there. It's a highly perishable item, so we recommend really buying frozen shrimp. It's super easy to defrost. You can either put it in the refrigerator the day before that you're going to use it, or put it in a colander, run it under cold water, and in no time at all, you've got shrimp that is ready to roll. You see there's some quotes on these things, so I am a bit of like a nerd when it comes to trivia and pop culture, so of course I'm going to throw something in here about peanut butter. It takes approximately 540 peanuts to make a 12-ounce jar of peanut butter. I know you really needed to know that. And for those of you who are old enough, Mr. Ed, the way they got the horse to jaw things was they put peanut butter in his mouth. You're welcome. Okay, the next recipe is a quick and easy roasted red pepper pasta. The reason I picked this one is because it's in the title alone. It's quick and easy. You can pull this together as quickly as you can boil pasta. If you don't have roasted red peppers, you can make your own, and it's super simple. If you have a gas element stove, take the peppers, char them on each side, put them in a bowl, cover with plastic wrap, let it sweat, and then you can peel them easily. Or if you don't have a gas stove, you can put them under the broiler. The tip here is a myth buster. So if you are pouring oil in with your pasta, it's not, when you're looking to boil pasta, not the way to do it. Oil will not keep the pasta from sticking together. It will sit at the top. It will keep it from boiling over, but it won't keep it from sticking. So our tip here is to run the dry noodles under cold water and then add them to the boiling water, stirring it frequently. And then when it comes time to have your pasta, just drain it, but don't rinse it. The starch that sticks to the pasta will help the sauce stick to it. So that's what we recommend there. And you'll also see in this recipe, there are fresh peas. Do not keep your fresh peas at room temperature. Within 6 hours, half of their sugar will turn to starch. So make sure you refrigerate those. Onward. Chunky vegetarian chili with cornbread muffins. No one is going to be asking, where's the beef? This is so hearty and delicious. Do not be alarmed by how long the ingredient list is. It's basically clearing out your entire pantry and your spice rack. It is delicious. The beauty of this is it can also, the reason we chose this was it can be used for leftovers. The leftovers can be used in so many different ways. So throw it on a baked potato with sour cream and cheese and chives, on waffles. That's something my sister likes to do. She's big into her waffle maker. You can also put it on French fries. You can put it on nachos. You can mix it into mac and cheese. So you get the chili mac. So again, so much you can do with this recipe. And it's healthy, it's delicious, and it's a family favorite. Another tip here is mushrooms. Do not store them in the paper bags. That will make them mushy. So when you're storing your mushrooms, if you're not storing them in the package they came in, if you've picked them fresh from the store, put them in a paper bag, transfer them to a Ziploc, leave them in the fridge partially open, and that will allow the air and the gases to circulate. So last one here, of course, because we are the Bite Me Sisters and we are 75% healthy, 25% butter. The last one is dessert. And I have gone long on oats. I checked out a survivalist site before the whole pandemic really took hold, and they said, buy a lot of oats. So I did, and there's only so many bowls of oatmeal I can eat. So what is one to do? Make Cowboy Blondies. They are the embodiment of everything perfect. You've got shredded coconut, you've got white chocolate, you've got chocolate and oats in these blondies. You can make the full recipe and freeze half of it if you feel that your family won't finish it. That is never a problem in my home. So we managed to finish them. So, or you can make a double batch and then freeze half of it. You'll notice here that in the pecan topping, you have toasted pecans. Toasting your nuts. I know this is a family-friendly show, but it's really hard for me to get through this without giggling, which is really ridiculous because I'm a grown-up, but it's invaluable. It ups the flavor and the crunch factor of nuts. In order to do it, spread them in a thin layer on a rimmed baking sheet. Bake them at 350 for 5 to 10 minutes. Every so often going in to shake them, stir them. They can burn really easily, so you've got to not step away for too long. And well, my sister said this, so I feel I could repeat it because she's the PC one, is that if you smell the nuts, it's too late. So you don't really want to smell them cooking. Sorry, Christian. You can keep, because of their high oil content, you can keep nuts in the refrigerator for 6 months. And we love keeping ours in the freezer for up to a year without any problems with the quality. Brown sugar is also in this recipe. If your brown sugar is getting hard, you can add an apple slice or a slice of bread to the container and you'll have soft sugar in no time. I'm going to stop sharing now my screen and go back to my tips. So I'm down to number 5. How am I doing for time, Christian? I'm thumbs up, thumbs sideways.
Yep, you got about 3 more minutes and then we got some Q&A questions.
Okay, 3 minutes. Number 5, DIY frozen fruit and vegetables. It's so easy to do. If you've been to the grocery store in the recent days, you've probably seen that there's only scallops left in the freezer, not our jam either. So it takes no time to freeze your fruit and vegetables. It prevents food waste. You can stay stocked with healthy, amazing things. Frozen fruit you can keep for up to a year, vegetables to 18 months. When you're doing vegetables, choose produce that's ripe and unblemished. Just very quickly, the steps you would take with broccoli, which is great to throw in stir fries, for example. Rinse and cut up into smaller pieces. Fill the bottom of a pot with a shallow layer of water, put in a steamer basket, put the broccoli in there, turn on the heat, turn it up to high. Once it's going, put the lid on for 5 minutes and then shock the broccoli, strain and then shock the broccoli in ice cold water to stop the cooking, and it keeps the color and the nutrients. Spread it out, dry it. You don't want to freeze it with damp. Put it on a baking sheet, put it in the freezer, and then once it's frozen, put it in a freezer safe bag or container, and you're done. With fruit, we love having frozen fruit for smoothies, toppings for ice cream, or to put in wine, for those of us who need a little wine right now, to cool it down without diluting it, like an ice cube would. So we use frozen fruit for that sometimes. In the case of fruit, wash, sort, put in a single layer on a baking sheet. Again, put in the freezer. Once it's frozen, then put it in the freezer safe containers. Again, the whole thing takes no time. Number 4, menu plan. So many benefits to menu planning. Fewer trips to the grocery store. 6 p.m. you're not saying, oh, what's for dinner? And ordering that pizza. And you can also really, what I like to do is as soon as I get home, I like to prep certain things in advance. I know I'm making a lasagna. I'm going to shred my mozzarella. I'm going to clean my vegetables and fruit. It just helps me save time. So where do you start? Get inspired. Go to websites, buyememore.com. Sorry, was that? Flip through cookbooks, Buy Me Too. Like you play. Keep a menu journal. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. So find what works and keep a journal of it so that you can look back and say, oh yeah, that meal was great. Okay, that's what I'm going to make today. And I did already mention prepping the food. Number 3, tip number 3. See, I'm going fast, Christian. Have the right tools on hand. Our 5 favorite time-saving tools: kitchen shears. I use these for herbs or herbs, however you say it, to cut up canned tomatoes right in the can. It's a great thing to have. A sharp chef's knife. I was waving this around before Christian was alarmed. Having a great chef's knife, it will make your slicing and dicing easier, faster, safer. A microplane grater. Love this for zesting citrus or sprinkling some Parmesan over some pasta. As I mentioned earlier, the immersion blender. You must have one. And I'm going to tell you why. Sauces and soups can be pureed right in the pot. No mess, no transferring something scalding into a blender. It is the greatest tool, and you just wash this part and you're done. It's cheap and cheerful, and it's a great tool. And finally, the 5th one, because I don't like going to the gym and I don't have great muscles like my sister. So a citrus, I don't really know what you call this other than a citrus squeezer. Love having one of these on hand because I'm often trying to get the most out of my lemons and limes. tip number 2, and I really am almost done, use your freezer. So cook once, eat twice. And tip number 1, laugh, laugh, laugh. We folks are not saving the world one cupcake at a time. If your meal goes sideways, there's always Lucky Charms or peanut butter and jam, which I discovered last night after mine went sideways. And it wasn't a Lisa sponsored recipe. So there you go. That was my first mistake, was going off script and
it was all on you.
And making something that wasn't Lisa's. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. You will have access to those recipes and about 700 more on our website, bitememore.com. If you're curious about what we do as a digital agency, bitemedigital.com, and a new book coming your way October 6th. And it's called The Bite Me Balance. And it's all about having your cake and eating it too. So instead of eating that sleeve of cookies, have one cookie, but make it the best cookie ever. And balancing that out with healthy, wholesome food.
Love it. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Did I talk too fast? Sorry, folks, if I mumbled or talked too fast.
Well, listen, Julie, there are some questions in the Q&A. I've got some private messages that have come to me through the chat. So we're going to dive in. Are you ready?
I am ready.
I'm combining 3 questions from Cheryl, Florence, and someone anonymous.
Oh, I like anon.
Mystery. They all have to do with allergies.
Okay.
Tolerances. So I'm just going to try to put these 3 questions together.
Sure.
Do you have a good substitute or some recommendations for a peanut allergy? The second one is Anonymous's son is allergic to eggs. So do you have some thoughts on egg substitutions for baking or cooking or ways around that?
My goodness.
And then the last one is about lactose. So it's a triple threat question.
Wowzer. That's what I'm going to say, wowzer. You know how a politician always says, that's a really good question? Those are really good questions. I would love to answer them. However, I fear treading in that area because I'm not sure of the science of things, as far as that's really my sister's domain, but do not hesitate to drop me a line and I will pass it on to my sister, and she will most definitely get back to you with the answers to those questions. I do understand gluten-free, because in our new book, we really made a point of having, I think 93 out of 130 recipes are gluten-free or can be made gluten-free, because we got a lot of requests for that. But specifically,
well, actually, that's one of the next questions. Is actually
okay. Well, specifically with the peanut allergy and the eggs and the lactose, like I said, I'm here for your questions, and I feel terrible that, can't you ask me about a font? What font I used? I would love to be able to answer that, but I do need my trusty sidekick. So please don't hesitate to send those to me, and I'll get you like an essay.
I love it. Well, you know what? It's actually a complicated question because it's also kind of a medical question too, right?
Yeah, I come with a warning label, I've been told. So I don't want to lead anyone astray, and I know, like, my sister has banned me from giving any sort of that kind of advice, because when we were doing our signings and people would say, oh, are these cookies diabetic? Are they good for people who on a diet? I'm like, yeah, they're one-pointed Weight Watchers, which they weren't. And so therefore,
Thank you for just saying that, because guess what? The chat just went wild saying, we need Julie's email address.
Am I allowed to give it over this?
Yeah, well, we're going to send it tomorrow.
And to you, anonymous, it's Julie at bitemecookbook.com or Julie at bitememore.com. They'll both get to me.
I love it. All right, here's another question. This one is about potatoes. Yes. And keeping potatoes fresh, because when you put them in the basement and they kind of sprout. Do you have any thoughts on, like
cool, dark, dry place?
Yeah.
If your basement is damp, don't be putting your spuds down there.
Have you been cooking with spuds that have little
eyes or little? When they start to sprout like that, I've already used them before they get to the sprouting stage. But I think, you know, I know people say they put their onions and their potatoes together. Don't recommend it. Keep them separate. Keep them in a dry, cool, dark place.
So this question is about bread. So
Oh my
we've
God.
been sitting
We
at
are
home
we are
making
carboholic.
sourdough, trying to find a friend with sourdough starter.
Yeah.
What's your favorite use for leftover bread or stale bread? Or what's your
Okay.
tip on also, the question is actually, in addition, what's your favorite bread recipe?
Um, okay. I love making challah, which is egg bread.
Yeah.
It's sweet bread. Yeast is a little bit hard to come by right now, as I'm sure you all know. My sister is like going into every corner of the universe trying to find more yeast. Um, uh, for left, when bread starts to go, I love croutons are a great thing. We have super easy recipes for making
Yeah.
croutons, love a good crunch in our salad, or breadcrumbs. And that was something that people were having trouble finding at the beginning of the pandemic was people were saying to us, we can't find breadcrumbs. And so they're super easy to make. I can tell you like just from 10,000 feet, and if you want something a little more, I can get it from my sister, but you put them in the food processor, you put the bread in the food processor, you get it into kind of coarse-ish crumbs, toast them in the oven, grind them up, and you're done like dinner. You got your breadcrumbs.
That's great. This question is about limited freezer space.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, exactly. I have that problem actually.
Yeah, mine is too full of ice cream. That's the problem right now.
Exactly. They're all of these huge containers with ice
I
cream
told you I
or
did put on pants with a button today, but it is eating your feelings time. So ice
well,
cream is
do you have any thoughts around, when you should go through and actually clear out your freezer and say, okay, you know what, this is obviously it has to go, or I have to eat this now.
personally, if I haven't gone for it within the season, like if I put a soup in during the winter and I haven't touched it by the end of the winter, I know I'm not going to be eating it. I'm likely not going to be touching it spring and summer. So I'm not going to let it go on too long
Right.
because there is a premium on that space. And I'm not willing to let go of my rocky road. So
Right, right. It's all about the sacrifice, really.
listen, it's a balance.
On that note, questions come through about your new book.
Yeah.
Tell us more about it. What can we
Um,
expect? How is it going to change our lives? It says.
the beauty of this book for us is that we have taken our learnings from our last three books. We have listened to our biters, and we really served it up in a way that's different from our other books. We've divided it into four sections. You have breakfast and brunch, lunch, weeknight dinners, and gatherings,
Mm,
all for which you cook differently for, and all have that balance between the healthy, wholesome daily eats and then the occasional delectable treats. So, along with the quinoa breakfast bowl and the oatmeal bowl and everything else, we do have an apple French toast souffle, which is quite delicious. So it's the idea of finding that balance. Really, what we do is our recipes. Uh, Everything is easily accessible. So you go to one grocery store. We're not sending you on a hunt for fig paste, and we're not. We're kind of that happy medium between Martha and her 8-hour broth that nobody can do,
yes.
and Rachel Ray with her beans on toast. We're that middle ground where the food is fresh and fantastic. It's also crowd pleasing and kind of easy to pull off. Like my sister has made me look like a hero more times than I can count. So you too will, we're there to set people up for success. We're not saying, hey, do this and it's not going to work for you. Because as my great grandmother once said, she would give recipes for meatballs without the meat in it. So we've got you covered.
That's amazing. Well, listen, it's 1:30. Our time's up. Uh, Believe it. Yeah,
I could
Julie.
stay. I could stay forever.
We could,
But
yeah,
thank you for
let's
having me. I
stay
really
on just the
appreciate
two of
it.
us later, right? Listen, thank you so much for spending this time with your fellow alumni and our
Thank you.
community. We're so happy that you're a Ryerson grad and
I'm so
delighted that
proud.
you,
You'll
yeah,
see in my bio in all the books, I say I'm a Ryerson grad.
I love that.
Super
Yeah,
proud.
yeah. Did you hear that, all you Ryerson alumni? You better be doing the same.
Yeah.
October 6th is the release of the new book. We're so excited
Thank you.
to share news of that closer to the date with all of you. Maybe by then or shortly after, we'll be able to have Julie and her sister on campus to share those recipes and maybe a taste or two.
We'd like to feed you. We'll bring the cookies and milk. Lactose-free milk. We'll bring the lactose-free milk and the egg-free cookies.
There you go. So whoever anonymous, you better be there.
Anon, come on.
Listen,
Thank
thanks
you.
again, Julie, for all that you're doing, and we look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Thank you so much.
And for all of you who joined us today, thank you for making the time. And look out for other great webinars coming your way over the next few days and weeks. Also, tomorrow we'll be sending you a link to this video or presentation, and we'll be sending you also a link to those recipes and some other resources like Julie's email address.
And
So,
show me what you've made. I want to see.
great idea. Yeah. So yeah, please do. We'll love
If
to
anyone's cooking,
see how
I
your
want to see it.
creations turn out.
At Bite Me More.
That's right, at Buy Me More. So that's actually great. So we'll and also follow them on those channels. That's
Yeah.
on Instagram, and I think you're on Facebook as well.
You're gonna like my sister way better than you like me, so don't worry. She's the yin to my yang.
You're amazing, Julie, and I
Thank you
look forward to
for having
meeting
me.
your sister too. So
She's the best.
we'll do it again.
Okay, thank
Have a
you.
great afternoon, everybody. Bye
Guys,
for
thank you.
now.